today. Thank you everyone for joining us. And just so you know, we've everybody who comes into the conversation, we've already pre-programmed, and you can see that you are on mute. And if you have any questions, I'll weave those in as we're facilitating, and that function, like I said before, there's probably a lot of Zoom experts in the room already, but if not, there is a chat function, which is at the bottom of your screen usually, and you can just press on there, type your question in. We will have a Q&A at the very end as we give a toast, and Ray said he has his favorite cocktail ready, and so we'll do that as well. And if you are on gallery view, there's two views. So there's the gallery view, which you can see then all of us in a row. I can see all of you now, and when you can switch it to speaker view. And that way, if you're on speaker view, you'll see whoever is speaking, myself now, and then when it goes to Ray, you'll see Ray larger in the screen. So that's probably what you'd like to be at, so you can see a little bit more up close when we go and see some of the beautiful artwork that he has in his Jerry's home on that. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Many of us, of course, are so familiar with Ray. Ray and I've worked together over the last 11 years as I've been at the museum, but Ray's been part of the museum for over 40 years. And so, just across the time frame, as an artist, as a professor, as a collector, and as a friend. And he's done so many things during his journey, and as we go through the house, he'll share that with us as well, and some of those stories. But he's emeritus, professor emeritus of art at Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, and founder of the groundbreaking Mountain Lake Symposium and Workshops, which have really brought in internationally respected artists and critics to the New River Valley, such as painter Wayne Tebald, composer John Cage, sculptor Anthony Caro, and critics Donald Cuspit, Clement Greenberg, and Susie Gablick. And so then that's just to name a few. He's had a lengthy exhibition history. We're so fortunate to have him in the area. And as you know, currently, and many, if not every single person has seen the exhibition on view at the museum, Riverrun, New Works by Ray Kass. And that's, one of the works in the gallery. And that will be on view until August 16th. So once we reopen, it's an opportunity to see that, of course. And, Ray not only has had exhibitions with us, but across the nation and in different countries, including in Kyoto, Japan, the museum, Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, the Reynolds Gallery in Richmond, and the Allen Stone Gallery in New York, to name a few. And I just brought the book. I was, was on my bookshelf here, and many of you are familiar with that. But Ray has published a number of books. This one's The Side of Silence, John Cage's Complete Watercolors. And so it is such a pleasure, Ray. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ray, and he's going to start in his studio. And I had the pleasure, along with Mary Legoo and Patrick, and we visited him a number of times. And so, to see him in his space and that inspiration and creative process. So.
Well, thank you for the introduction and welcome. You're in my studio. This is my painting porch that faces the Roanoke River, and this table is where I do my paintings, particularly the recent paintings, such as the ones that are in the Taubman now, where the oil and pigment applications over the watercolor and prepared paper happens right here. And that's what you're looking at. And I'm going to pick my phone up now so I can lead you around a little bit. This is what you're looking at. It's just a piece of smoked paper that I've applied a stain to. And this is very characteristic of the paintings that are in the museum right now. These are my dry pigments that I rub with an oil emulsion that's right here. I just rub that on with a paper towel, between stencils. And here's a design for a stencil I haven't cut out yet, but that will be sort of a form that's derived from the sycamore bark and different floral pieces I find lying on the property. When I take my dog for a walk every day, this is the garden, and you can see way down there in the distance, I think, the Roanoke River, which is really flooded today. It's at its 2-year floodplain. Pretty fantastic. There's a Steve Bickley sculpture. It's almost 10 foot tall. And there are other sculptures. That's a James Wolfe sculpture sitting there on the stone pedestal. So I'm going to go into the studio now. This is the other view of the painting porch. Winnie, my dog, is wondering why all this is going on. She's great. She's very patient. She says, "Why aren't you taking me out for a walk? It's not raining for a few minutes." Come on, Winnie. There she is. She's half boxer and half lab. Come on. Don't stand on the black if you want to be photogenic. That's right. Well, this is my studio. It's a 30 by 40 foot room with a 12-foot ceiling. Cool. And over here is a wrapped up big polyptical painting like the ones that you currently have on view, but this one was exhibited at Reynolds Gallery last fall and winter.
Well, and I remember when we came to visit, the whole floor was filled with, you were working on River Run. So there was, the different, it is a huge studio space. So, but it was the first time that you saw all the pieces come together on the walls at the museum.
Well, it's the first time I ever saw the paintings. They're too large to hang in here. So that was amazing for me. This is the garden view. What you're looking at are Siberian iris. Can you see those? Beautiful.
Yes, most definitely. They're beautiful, beautiful.
Full proliferation. It's just amazing. Yeah. This is the painting I'm currently working on. I think I'm going to call it Vessel. But it's oil emulsion and dry pigment over toned paper with watercolor, and there's some little smoke right there at the bottom, little straw fire. And this is a wall of mementos or friends. Let me turn it sideways. Yeah.
Yep, that's a good view. We can see the Eric Stanley. You might want to get close up to as you get to that.
This was the first painting I think he sold. When I saw them, I bought one immediately. These are 2 Sally Mann photographs that have letters written on the back of them. I have about 20 or 25 of those. That's a Dwayne Michaels photograph of Rene Magritte that Susie Gablet gave me. Justin Nisley works at the Museum of Modern Art, manages all their special merchandising for shows. Just bought a lot of Donald Judd chairs and furniture and things, and now that the museum is closed, this is your chance to buy one really inexpensively.
That's a great tip.
This is a painting by Odagaki Rengetsu, the great Buddhist nun of Japan. I collect a lot of Japanese scrolls and art, and it was probably painted in the 1860s.
And it seems like, those, like you said, there's some of your old friends, and, it seems like those are those special ones that you've, decided to have in your studio space versus upstairs.
Yeah, they're edifying. I enjoy them. I especially like, particularly Japanese painted scrolls, but I like the Kakamona mounting style. I mean, you'll see examples of it upstairs, particularly. But a little shikishi over here, which is a kakamona scroll you can put your own picture in. So that's actually a painting of mine, or it's a little drawing of mine, but it fits into those little cloth loops. This is a white heron by the Canos.
And I've got a question that came in, Ray, and you know, the works that you have in your studio, do they provide them that kind of standing inspiration for your own work?
Yes. Yeah. This is another Rengetsu on the left. It's a poem, a beautiful poem, really. Let us consider our aging and future happiness as twin needles from an auspicious pine.
Beautiful.
I know. This is by Stephen Addis, my friend, the great Zen Buddhist scholar. All right, we're going to go upstairs.
And are we making a special stop in your folk art kind of powder room?
We're going into the powder room of the studio, known otherwise as the bathroom. Yes, these are my little tin soldiers when I was a little kid. You can see those running around this ceramic. They're World War I era. Howard Finster, A Vision Box. James Harold Jennings. Jimmy Lee Sudduth. That's painted with mud and sugar water. Purvis Young. And of course, some of the prints that I did with Brian Sieveking and the workshop by Howard Finster. This is a set. You own a box set of these, I believe.
Correct, correct. Yeah, we had that up, a number of them up during the Howard Finster exhibition.
There's a little cutout that we did in the workshop with him in 1989. Yeah, we did. He was here and at the Horton Center, and we would go down to Somerville, Georgia, and do projects with him. Go ahead, Winnie.
So I think we're going to head upstairs now, and we'll see the hallway, kind of that staircase with various, favorites as well.
Mose Tolliver. This is the little foyer. That's a painting on velvet.
That's gorgeous.
It's really nice, I think. Yeah. Another, It's an original piece made of brower root art from our own Georgia fields. That's Abraham Lincoln Chris, great Virginia outsider art, under-recognized. An African-American artist of real significance. I think I gave you some pieces of his.
I believe so. And how many works of art do you have in your collection, Ray?
More than 3,000.
And how many would you say that you have in your home currently up?
There's about 260 pieces. This is the staircase, and most of what you see on the left is work by my students. To encourage them, I always bought paintings from my classes, although I retired in 2003. But I continue being involved with XYZ, the Student Art Association, where I was the advisor for 20-something years, although Michael Borowski has taken that over now, professor at Tech, and he's doing a great job. This is a painting by Keith Crown, who I studied with in 1967, who took me outdoors to paint watercolor for the first time.
Oh, that's a wonderful memory then.
You have one or two of them. I gave some to the Phillips collection. This is by Gene Davis, Washington Color School. We're in the hallway now. This is a gorgeous Chinese carving, 600 years old. It's part of a temple in Anhui that I bought. And this is a water motif. So it would have been a pedestal piece sticking out of a column about 30 feet high, all hand carved by craftsmen who would have made their own tools. But I love I love water and movemented water as a theme and a motif. This is by Ralph Griffin. You have pieces, I think, in the collection. That's an old clay pot from Corinth, a dish. I think it belonged to Giacometti, and Silvana Cenci gave it to me. It's a de Kooning of Thelonious Monk called Rainbow, Devil at the Piano.
I see that, yes.
Yeah. And this is one of my favorite pieces. This is from Sand Mountain, North Carolina, and it's a handmade snake handling basket from the snake handling Christian cult, you know, that use snakes as part of their spiritual worship. These are ceremonial funereal figures from Chinese tombs. I'll tell you how I got all these when I get to the top of the stairs. There's a beautiful drawing of a piano stool by Morris Graves, done around 1953. It's held up pretty well.
It has, and Ray, you know, as you have 3,000 works in your collection and on view about 200 and, you know, a little over 250, do you change those out, or do you, you know, keep those out? I know you have storage in another space, you know, on your property.
Well, we used to change them out a lot. Now we change them out 2 or 3 times a year. The collection would go between contemporary art, outsider and folk art, and then sometimes just my things. But I haven't done it in recent years, largely because I like what I have around me now, and I'm not crawling up ladders anymore. I mean, you understand from the work I did when I was the volunteer Southeastern Contemporary Curator there, it's not such an easy thing to do. So
no, that is correct.
We'll change it out again. This is a shaker pie safe that has most of my Native American collection in it, which is mostly when I taught in California in 1969 to 71. Some of my students were Karuk and Hupa, and I began collecting these baskets. And the baskets have been an important influence on my earlier work done in California. It's a geometry that really represents the landscape, or cosmic things even beyond the landscape. This is Hupa. This is a hat. This is also a hat. Beautiful, aren't they?
They are beautiful. And it looks like you have a, you know, I like how you've curated it right in that space as we've gone around your, you know, your upstairs.
This is Apache. This is a Modoc ceramic vessel. These are all things I acquired back in the late 60s, really, when I was driving around the West. You know, that's an Albers. And I have a collection of Chinese scholar stones.
And of all sizes, some are very large and some are smaller.
Oh, this is about 49 inches high and weighs a lot, you know. There's Winnie standing next to it to give you some perspective. She's a 70-pound dog, so.
And there's a Sally Mann right behind on the main staircase there.
Yeah, we're gonna get there. We're walking right in that direction. This is the tour. The Chinese furniture I have is because my students, particularly one of them, got involved being a major exporter of scholar stones and Chinese furniture 30 years ago. And I bought a lot of these things simply to encourage them in their then emerging business. This is a great buffet table, by the way. If you ever have people over, you just pick everything off it.
It's beautiful, and I see your new book is there, Ray, the one that you just finished. I mean, it's gorgeous. I've seen it. You know, the Mountain Lake workshop. Yes.
Yeah, this is the first book I wrote about Morris Graves. Vision of the Inner Eye. when I was a guest curator at the Phillips collection. There's a Morris Graves painting from 1944, the year I was born. It's called Waning Moon. It's two snakes, really. The whole hallway is Japanese scrolls.
And how many Japanese scrolls would you say that you have in your collection?
Oh, 50 or so.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen Addis advises me a lot. I'm just totally addicted to them. This is a Shigaraka Suba large vessel with feldspar glaze on top of an old Chinese chair. But this is a really special thing. It's about 16 inches or 17 inches tall. And the scholar stones, which I have a real special interest in, I've been collecting for years. This is a Tai Hu stone, 14 by 14, I guess, on a carved base, but not an elaborate base. My little table of Chinese things. Rob Barnard, it's a Rob Barnard platter that I bought from a show. This is a painting by my father, Jacob Kass, who in 2003 had a show for a year and 2 weeks at the American Folk Art Museum in New York that was wildly popular, got a great review in the New York Times. Everybody said, oh, you need to do more for your mother. And I said, I am doing things for my mother because she loved his exhibitions and receptions. And
That's
there was always
wonderful.
the possibility he wouldn't get up off the sofa, Giving me another job. This is another piece of that temple that was supposed to be built on the Virginia Tech campus. We got the whole thing, was shipped to upstate New York. And then they had a transition in the University of Architect at Tech, and it never got acquired or erected.
And Ray, we have two kind of questions coming up, and one is, we'd love to show the reference image as you were talking, if you talking about your father and his work and the full as a folk artist.
Yeah.
We're gonna get that up. And then
Yeah.
the second question that came up was, if you could talk a little bit more about a scholar stone, but let's look first at this reference piece. Would you talk a little bit about, the work of your father as a folk artist? So that's gorgeous. I haven't seen this one yet.
This is a 26-inch diameter painting that he painted of Ellet Valley Sawmill, which is a sawmill that I would often buy green lumber from near here. He made a number of paintings that were thematically based in Southwest Virginia. And this is I actually still own this. He has 26 works that are in the American Folk Art Museum, and they're a permanent collection.
And where is the American Folk Art Museum located for our audience that's listening in?
New York City.
Pardon me?
Broadway. In New York City, in Manhattan, on Broadway, across from Lincoln Center.
Okay. Is this, now we're up in your living space, and we can see your the mantle and around the room to kind of get that perspective. Of course, that's one of your paintings and artwork, and there is the staircase that we walked up the stairs. Yes.
With the Jimmy Lee Sudduth, the Toto, his dog. One of the great early outsider artists. Of course, that's a Susan Shatter landscape painting of Machu Picchu. That's a big Sally Mann photograph of Cold Harbor. One of her Civil War photos. Site of a great battlefield. Yeah, this gives you some perspective on the room, the hallway. It's a Justin Nisley painting who works at the Museum of Modern Art. I showed you a drawing downstairs.
And we can see, in your space, the number of scrolls. Like you said, you have 50 in your collection, and a number of them you have actually hanging.
That's a landscape I would have painted when I was here in 1976 as visiting artist. Spring came about February 4th or 5th that year. And so I painted out of my truck. And I did a lot of these landscapes. And to complement them, these panoramas of the Appalachian Mountains, which I painted through the 4 seasons, I would crawl down into the valleys and crannies and paint abstractions of the Cascades and movemented water that forms a lot of this. So you have a great one hanging right now outside of my show, or at least a big one.
Correct, we do. And I know those 3 right there are the Japanese ones that are one of your favorites.
Well, this is sort of the prize of my Japanese collection at this point, though I bought a couple of things yesterday. This is by Tanaka Nika, who died in 1849, but it's a triptych that has to, about the seasons. Over here on the left, you have winter, right?
Right.
And then as you move in the center, you have the Uji River, with the famous bridge that goes over the Uji River with the moon above it. And this is, that's a very historically important part of Kyoto, Uji. It's where the Tale of Genji was written, most of it. And this is spring. And I love this little copse of trees. So they're peaceful. I mean, I leave these up now because they're relaxing. They're comfortable.
Well, I think I can understand that, especially as you sit in the living space with that and look out into your beautiful garden. You know, that I can understand. And I know you have a special piece on your mantle and with a story.
Well, the mantle has smaller ceramics. And this is a Tang Dynasty mold-made piece that I would have eaten my rhubarb and cream out of as a child. My grandfather bought at an auction. Next to it, the white piece is an inscribed piece by Rengetsu, Otagaki Rengetsu. This is Mashiko, Greg Miller. This is Ben Owen, who founded Jugtown. Another Taihu, another Abraham Lincoln Chris of a bird. Mark Toby. A rice basket. Another small scholar stone. This is the 3 laughters of Tiger Gorge. It's a famous motif in Chinese painting that the Japanese adopted. And it's about 3 hermits who are constantly playing pranks on each other. This is a really nice stone with a great base.
It seems like you have it. I think is that correct, Ray? You have 14 scholar stones because it seems like most of them are actually on view.
Yeah, most of them are on view. Some of them are small. I had more, but I sold a couple of them over the years. I just couldn't resist. I now regret selling anything, but when you're a young artist, unless you sell a painting, you're not validated, right?
Well, that's true. That's true.
Now I actually don't want to sell my paintings anymore. I feel weird about it. This is a painting by Anne Truitt, who was a friend of mine. She's one of the foundation figures in reductive minimalist painting in America, and also a member of the Washington School. Jake Berthaud, who you have a terrific painting by. This is a work on paper by him I got from Ivan Karp. This is a Robert Wilson painting. It looks like an Egon Schiele. That's why I bought it. I got it from Gagosian years ago. These are things from the Caracho Workshop, which is the oldest woodblock printing company in Japan. It's 14 generations. One of my students asked the current descendant of the original Caracho Workshop people if she could do an internship in their workshop, and he said, "Of course you can. You just have to be born in our family." That's in Kyoto. It's my friend Jiro Okura. One of his carvings. The whole guest house is full of his work. He died a few years ago.
Wonderful.
unfortunately. This is, let me see, get it this way maybe.
Yeah, that's better.
This is actually John Cage's last print without horizon. They were monoprints. Picasso print, signed.
And I love how, you know, you juxtapose the Picasso to, I believe, the Johns down at the bottom.
Oh, yeah, this is a Jasper Johns lithograph that I keep near the table so I can remember how to set the table. Otherwise, I never remember where to put the knife and the fork and the spoon.
Well, that's a great reminder.
Great dialogue with the Picasso because of his use of his cross-hatching and all that. You really see that up here. That's why I like this Picasso. This is a painting of mine from about 1982. It's a watercolor on paper covered with beeswax, and then it has an oil emulsion with oil paint in it applied on top of it. Let me get to a better perspective in the room.
Yeah, that's great if you back up. Yeah, because it's just, it really is stunning in that space.
Yeah, it's about 6.5 feet tall.
And what was the year that you created that one, Ray?
Probably 1982.
And I know, you know, what we're going to kind of end on your grandfather's painting, and then head in for a cocktail and for question and answer.
A great little folk art painting from the 1840s or 50s that I bought in a junk store in New Hampshire. And my grandfather, Louis Van den Langenberg, Brooklyn Bridge.
Wonderful.
50 of his pieces. But, you know, he just drew them to keep himself amused.
All right. And what's that last one right above your grandfather's?
That's a Matisse from the Bronx Chapel period.